And then they've added other weapons, and I don't think that actually hurts Swift. I think that helps put some balance into their offense that they haven't necessarily had. I think they were like Suburbans, Chevy Tahoes, big black SUVs. Pass me. All with their lights on, but all with zero tag.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is episode 7 of Player Normal Activity. I am your host, Kraig Reith, and I have a special guest with me this week. You know him from Twitter. He's the founder of the Fantasy Nightcap, which you can find on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts from. He's also the founder of Polly's Playoff. You can find more information about that through his Twitter, which is at FFShaneB. Shane Barrett, thank you for joining me this evening. How are you doing?
I'm good, Kraig. Thanks for having me, man.
No problem. It's always fun to connect with people. I know you've had a show that I've been on, and thank you again for that. You can find that over on his YouTube and on his podcast, Fantasy Nightcap again. But Shane, before we get too deep into this, I wanted to give you an opportunity, since sign up and stuff is coming up for it, to tell people about Polly's Playoff.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for the opportunity for that. So Polly's Playoff is going into year 3. It is a tournament to end Alzheimer's. It's a Superflex redraft tiered PPR tournament. And last year we had about 240 people sign up. This year, if we have more, great. If we have 240, great. Really, the whole point behind it is to raise money for the Alzheimer's Association. And the reason that cause is kind of near and dear to my heart is because my wife's grandmother passed away 3 years ago. Her name was Polly, and that is why it is Polly's Playoff. So we are raising money in her honor to help find a cure for Alzheimer's. And so the registration is actually active and open. It will be going back up as my pinned tweet here shortly. So you can register there, read the rules, and if you have any questions, DM me. And that is at FFB.
Yep, it's a great cause. I had someone in my family that had been affected by it as well, and I was able to be in it last year, and it was a lot of fun to get to meet a lot of great people and raise money for a great cause. So thanks again for having that and letting people get involved.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Tonight, though, or this afternoon, whenever you're watching, listening to this, we're here to talk about, of course, a player and then some sort of paranormal or weird encounter. And the player that you wanted to talk about today was third-year running back DeAndre Swift of the Detroit Lions. He was the second running back taken in the 2020 draft after CEH, and he had a standout 3-year career at Georgia for college. So what interests you heading into this year about DeAndre Swift?
I think the biggest thing for me with Swift is going to be familiarity from his quarterback in the offense. And their offensive line is going to continue to improve as they kind of gel and get older and get more experienced. And then they've added other weapons, and I don't think that actually hurts Swift. I think that helps put some balance into their offense that they haven't necessarily had. So I think that Swift can continue to be a top 12 dynasty running back. I've got him at dynasty RB4 right now, behind Jonathan Taylor, Najee, and CMC. And so I think he can continue to be there and maybe actually finish as a top 12 redraft back this year.
Yeah, it's been interesting for a guy that, we talk about availability being important. He's missed 3 or 4 games, each of his years so far in the league. But when he's been on the field, he's been a top 12 running back in terms of points per game. And he's improved each year, too, by almost 2 points in PPR leagues from 14.5 up to 16.2. So that's great to see. He had that great production in college. He had over almost 2,900 yards, 20 touchdowns on the ground with 6.6 yards a rush and then 9.1 yards a catch, 73 catches, 666 yards and 5 touchdowns. And he's shown himself to be an elite PPR option as far as a running back. So I know they still sort of have that same running back crew. They didn't really do a whole lot in the draft with Jamal Williams, Jamar Jefferson, Craig Reynolds. Not a whole lot of big names there after Jamal Williams. So even with that production from Jamal Williams last year and him kind of being the starter, Swift had a much better year than people had anticipated with that signing. Do you see that sort of split continuing where Swift is the main guy, even if he isn't the starter?
Yeah, absolutely. And as a Packers fan, like Jamal Williams is just a thorn in the side of whoever he's in the backfield with, because he's just kind of sneaky productive. But I still think that Swift is the more talented back, and even if he's not technically the starter, if you will, he's the more talented back. He should get the majority of the snaps, and will probably get the more valuable snaps, like we talked about with him being such a good pass catcher. So that's kind of my reasoning for wanting him in fantasy, redraft, and dynasty, honestly.
And do you know offhand about where you have him for a dynasty back in your rankings?
4.
And then redraft?
Redraft, I have not gotten to yet.
Okay. You think it's probably going to be something similar with that upside?
Yeah, I think so. I think can we just talk about, like, I love CEH. I'm not even going to lie to you. But can we just talk about if the Chiefs had taken Swift? And I know some people are like, well, what if they'd taken Jonathan Taylor? Swift, to me, was the perfect fit for that offense. I thought CEH was probably a close second just because of their skill set pertaining to the Chiefs' passing offense. But, man, if he had gone to Kansas City, like, he might be in consideration for Dynasty RB1, if you ask me, if things went how we thought they should have gone with CEH. But who knows what Andy Reid's doing with his running backs right now.
Well, yeah, and, we've seen a lot of lately quarterbacks having input on who teams get in terms of free agents or something in the draft, and it kind of seems like Mahomes and Reid both sort of signed off on CH as far as wanting him there. So,
and that's what confused. I know we're talking about Swift, but that's what confuses me the most about CEH.
Yeah, I agree, though, that Swift is in a nice position. You mentioned that offensive line. It was a good offensive line last year. They had some health problems, but they should have another year, I think, maybe all but one, or it might even be the same complete offensive line. So they should be gelled, and they were great in that first year under Dan Campbell. And then to your point about those receiving options, so it's sort of the same what they had, except for they weren't healthy at all last year. Do you see that just taking away the defensive attention to the running game and opening it up more in that sense?
Yeah, I totally do. I like the additions that they've made in the wide receiver room, adding DJ Chark and Jameson Williams through the draft. I think what they've done with and then obviously you've still got TJ Hawkinson too.
Yep.
So if Hawkinson can stay healthy, Chark can recover and stay healthy, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown continues to produce at what he does, Jameson Williams, I feel like, really fits in well with the other weapons in that skill set, and they've got a diverse skill set in the receiving room. So what you just said, that's going to take so much pressure off of the run game to have to succeed and so much focus off of it, because they're going to have multiple ways to attack you in the passing game, including Swift, that Swift's running game can open up even more.
Now, the thorn in the side of, potentially talking about dynasty value for Swift may be looking at that quarterback position. It's almost like, and not that I think it's the wrong way to go about it, but on the offense, they're figuring everything out and then trying to figure out quarterback. But they got the picks for trading away Stafford and getting Goff, who didn't have a great year last year, but he's going to be in a better situation like Swift will be this year. Yeah. Do you think Goff is going to be helpful in terms of Swift he's not really a deep downfield passer. So even if they do open things up or try to, Swift will be there sort of as a safety valve. Or do you see them next year in the draft, or if a cheap veteran is available, having someone else come in there?
To answer the first part of your question, I think Goff can help him from a veteran presence standpoint, because Goff, like we know, knows how to play in the NFL. But I do also joke that he's Jared Goffel. Good. So I don't know if he's really going to give you the stats that you want to really give you a game-breaking play from your running back in the passing game. We've seen him actually support a top fantasy running back option in Todd Gurley before. So maybe he's just got that connection with Georgia backs. Who knows? But to answer the second part of your question, I think if things don't go above expectations with Goff this year, they're drafting a quarterback in the draft next year, 100%.
And there's certainly going to be a nice crop at the very top of the draft. Quarterbacks, by all expectations, it'll be a nice crop of quarterbacks with expectations of Bryce Young, CJ Stroud.
Yep.
And then, there's always a couple other quarterbacks that pop up every year, how high they go in the draft, like
Will
Malik Willis. It
Levis.
depends.
Will Levis. Keep your
Will
name.
Levis is another one. Yep.
Keep that name on your radar, people.
Sort of looking long-term with him being a free agent, injury concerns are there, but most teams are going to two-back sets anyway. By and large, gone are the days of the workhorse back. Do you see that he's going to be in a situation where Detroit's going to want to re-sign him without having a lot of tread on his tires, so to speak, so far?
I think so. I'd be shocked if they let him walk. If they did, it would have to be because, he has a phenomenal, because he should, if I remember correctly, should still have the ability to be optioned for a fifth-year option. I don't know if they've picked that up yet, but
he was in the second round, so I don't think he gets that.
Okay. I couldn't remember if they had that option with him being second round or not. So then, yeah, I mean, I'd be shocked if they didn't pick him up again. He would have to have some type of year to where he would be asking for Zeke level money, I think, for them to let him walk.
And the upside that he's shown in that passing game, even if he were to go somewhere else and be in a timeshare, it would probably be as that pass catching back, which for fantasy purposes for us, if you have him just in that hyper, Reggie Bush when he was used a lot, or different type of player, Darren Sproles, same type of guy, there's still going to be a lot of value there. And with the ever-changing nature of the running back position, I think he will continually flirt with that RB1 value as far as, top 12 every year, as long as he's in that pass catching role. RB4 is pretty high, but I like it and I understand it. And he has age on his side and he's on a improving offense that's still a little bit under the radar. So I like that call, and I'm excited to see what that Lions offense can do in general this year. All right. Well, we are going to move from the football field to the Fortean. But before we do that, I want to thank you, whoever you are listening to this on YouTube, whether it's live or whether it's at the premiere on YouTube or after the fact. Thank you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that like button if you like this. Throw something in the comments if you have any thoughts about DeAndre Swift or any questions. We'll follow up on those. But Shane is also here to talk to us something new on the show, but also really fits that, sort of weird situation, maybe not the paranormal, but you have some information about three-letter agencies, experiences with those. So what do you got for us tonight?
Yeah, so the first one is going to be a personal experience, and the second story is going to be a story about my grandfather.
Okay.
So first story is I used to sell orthopedic bracing, and specifically like back braces and knee braces. So one day I was in Montgomery, Alabama working, and ended up having a really late day. Like I don't think I got finished until 5:30 or 6. And after that, had to drive down to Dothan, Alabama, which is about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive from Montgomery. And it's wintertime, so it gets dark super, super early down south. And so I leave Montgomery, I'm driving, and I'm the only car on the road. I'm barreling down this 2-lane highway in Alabama. I'm the only car on the road going 10, 15 miles over the speed limit. Who knows? And all of a sudden I see these lights come up behind me and I'm like, okay, that's weird. And they're flying. Like they're driving faster than I am. So I'm like, okay, what is this? So I pull over into the right lane and keep cruising. And then all of a sudden, 3 identical black SUVs, I think they were like Suburbans, Chevy Tahoes, big black SUVs, pass me. All with their lights on, but all with 0 tag. Like they don't have a tag, they don't have any kind of markers, nothing. In the middle of the night, and I've to this day wondered, okay, who were they transporting either to a prison down there, or what political person was there, or what type of alien were they transporting in the car? Because literally we were in the middle of nowhere, like between Montgomery and Dothan, and those were the only cars on the road. No markings, nothing. Pass me like it was nothing, and just keep going.
About how fast do you think you were going? And then comparatively, if you had to guess, what do you think their speed was?
I was probably going 75 in a 65, and they were probably going 90.
And you said it was getting dark out. Did they have any sort of lights beyond headlights on?
No, nothing.
I mean, you're on a road. I don't know what, sort of long highway this is, but had you been passing anywhere recently where they could have easily gotten on to the highway that you were on? They just seemingly popped up out of nowhere.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Just popped up out of nowhere. Again, because I was the only car on the road, I feel like I would have seen them coming from behind me for a while, but they legit just kind of popped up out of nowhere.
Some just headlights behind you and then flying by you.
Yep.
And is there any sort of, in that vicinity at all, any sort of like big prison or anything like that?
I know there's a military base down there because that's where my aunt's uncle works. But I don't think we were even close to it yet.
But no plates, no identifying marks of anything.
Nothing.
Wow.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's weird. There's clearly some sort of rational explanation because there are physical vehicles that were there that you saw and went past you. But yeah, I've never even honestly seen a completely unmarked vehicle at all, but much less to see three of them in a line just going past you. Yeah, clearly there was something major going on. And, you've heard tales or whatever of that's when they do sort of big moves is when it's dark on highways when there's not other people.
100%. That's why I was like, I'm just going to keep moving and hope that they don't shoot me or pull me over or something because I'm not
run you off the road or
I'm not trying to get abducted right now.
Yeah, that's something else. I mean, I don't know that I've heard a story like that, but you hear tales of them transporting people or things.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder.
Yep. Well, and especially because of where it was in Alabama, that's what the really weird part was. Is if I had been close to Montgomery or close to Birmingham or Huntsville even, it might have made a little bit of sense. But I was in the middle of good old BFE and had there was no reason for them to be there.
Yeah, that's something.
So, all right, are you ready for story number 2?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, so I have a very important question for you.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on the JFK assassination?
It's one of those funny things that recently I was talking to our friend Nate Polvote about that, and he's really interested in that stuff, and he's got his theories. He's been doing much deeper dives into that for longer than I have. I love listening to it. I haven't dug into the reports to read them myself or anything like that. If I had to guess pure speculation, I think the government was involved in it in some fashion.
Okay.
And why exactly that was, are there mob ties to it? I don't know. It makes sense given all what happened with his presidency, how he came to be president, which is documented about how that went down, and then the results of him going after the mob. So
yeah,
I think there's probably something involved with the government and the mob working together for whatever reasons, but who orchestrated it, who went to who made the call, all of that I really don't know. But I don't necessarily know that I believe the government story.
Okay. Do you think it was a one-person job? One shooter?
I think the story that we're given about the grassy knoll and all that and who's shooting, I think that was the only person actively shooting at him. I know there's been mentions of Secret Service people making a mistake and a gun going off and all that sort of stuff. I could certainly see something like that happening given what the Secret Service agents were involved in with their party days and spending all night out on presidential detail. So could it be something where president's being shot at, someone goes to pull their gun and oopsie, I ended up shooting the president? Yeah, I could see that too. So do I think that there was an orchestrated event of multiple people at the grassy knoll all gunning for the president? No, because I don't really know that we've seen a lot to support that. But do I think there could have ended up being multiple shots, whether on accident or purpose, that went towards the president? Yes, I do think that's possible.
Okay. So the reason I ask all of this is because I am fairly certain that it was one person.
Yep, that's Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee Harvey. Yep,
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Three-name person.
Which if you've ever looked at the ties between the Lincoln assassination and the Kennedy assassination, they're super weird.
Oh, yeah.
Both three names, both vice presidents named Johnson. There's a couple other different weird ties that tie them so closely together. It's super weird. But the reason that I believe that it is a one-person job by Lee Harvey Oswald is because my grandfather, Robert Barrett, actually helped arrest Lee Harvey Oswald and took the gun out of his hand in Ford's Theater. Now, the story that my grandfather always told my dad was that the gun just kind of popped up in the air and my grandpa just reached out and grabbed it. But my dad is heavily, heavily convinced still to this day that grandpa punched Lee Harvey Oswald in the face, and that's what caused the gun to pop up, so then he grabbed it. I've done some research and had some research presented to me actually during high school in my 11th grade history class. My grandfather wrote an entire report on the assassination and actually, I believe, read the Warren Commission himself. So I am firmly of the belief that it was Lee Harvey Oswald by himself because my grandfather helped arrest Lee Harvey Oswald.
Did you ever have any sort of discussions? I don't know, if your grandfather was alive for you to discuss anything like that with him.
A little bit, yeah, in 11th grade, which I hope you'll forgive me. It's been a couple concussions since then I don't necessarily remember those conversations, but yeah, when we started talking about it in 11th grade, he gave me his paper. He gave me a whole book on the actual Warren Commission, and we talked about it for a little while then.
Do you believe the story that some people have that, Lee Harvey's just the lone wild nut acting of his own accord, or do you think there were people behind his actions?
I think he was just the lone wild wolf, honestly. Just disgruntled and not happy with the presidency and taking matters into his own hand.
So you believe he's the only guy there shooting at him that day of his own volition, just showing up with the gun and having at it and basically getting lucky with the shot?
Pretty much. I'd have to go back and find the presentation. My 11th grade history teacher actually gave a really good presentation on how the magic bullet kind of went through. Because if I remember right, there was 4 shots. First one, I think, hit him in the head. Second one missed. Third one, I believe, was the magic bullet. And then the fourth one, I think, grazed his shoulder or something. Or the fourth one was the one that killed the Secret Service or hit Secret Service. If you look at the way that the car was built and how Kennedy was sitting when he was shot, it explains the magic bullet because it kind of ricochets off the car and back into him.
Yeah, I haven't dug that deep into to examine that sort of stuff myself. I've read a lot on it, listened to more podcasts about it because that's just easier for me in terms of what I used to be for working and driving a lot every day. And again, I'm clearly no expert. I find it interesting. I mean, that sort of stuff. And I know it's not your opinion that this was the case, but we know that our government's been in some shady stuff before and seems 100%. To continue to be involved in some shady stuff. And I wouldn't put it past them. We know they had so many weird, crazy plots to try to assassinate Castro down in Cuba that just didn't work. So, yeah, it could be that. It could be them framing him. It could really just be him on his own. I'm open to a lot of different things on it. But it's crazy to me that big of an event will probably never completely know the true story for our history. For sure. Which, I mean, if you think about, we aren't going to know 100% what happened with the death of a sitting U.S. president. It's one of the wilder things, not really in our time, because it was before our time, but still continuing to this day. So,
yeah, totally.
Well, Shane, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing both of those stories. Again, it's something unique and very interesting. I'm sure my viewers will be interested to hear about that. And if you have more questions for Shane about DeAndre Swift, 3-letter agencies, or anything like that, Shane, tell them again where you can be found.
Yeah, for you guys on audio that didn't just see me dorkishly point at my handle on the screen, you can follow me on Twitter at FFShaneB. And then if you're looking for podcasts that I do, it is the Fantasy Nightcap, which you can follow on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and like Kraig said earlier, thankfully, you can find it on pretty much any podcasting platform that you are looking for. And I've spent a lot of time on that. So if you need help with that, let me know.
Yeah, I'm on a not very popular podcatcher myself, one that I randomly saw it one time, and I've gone through so many trying to figure out one that I like, because the iTunes one just didn't work at all. And
yeah,
I had various problems, and it's on the random one that I downloaded one day, so you can find it all over.
Awesome.
And remember, everyone, hit that like button. Let us know if you need anything. You can find me on Twitter and YouTube. But remember, everybody, whether you're interested in Demons or DeAndre Swift, we are going to have you covered here on Player Normal Activity. Thank you again, and we will see you next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you'd like more great fantasy football content like this, please click the link down below here.